Picking up where I left off in the last video. First thing's gonna be getting the Dana 60 out of the TJ, and then gotta tear it down, get it ready to go into the buggy and get laid up with link brackets. So follow along as I put together the front 4-link. Out of the TJ, need to start cleaning it up. Gonna pull the ram off because I think I'm gonna change up the mounting on that. Track bar brackets going away, 3rd link brackets. I don't know, maybe that'll be in the right place actually. Maybe I won't cut that off, I don't know yet. Nah, it's probably not, but we'll see. Link brackets are going away, shock mounts are going away, and 2 or so years of trail grime and goo is going away. So far this has been a solo project, but since my dad came here to work on bead locks, I made him help me get the axle out. So we'll see how far we get on that. All right, Clint, tell us what you're doing.
Doing a little rebuild on the freshen up on the Jazz fuel cell. Pull all the foam out, changing all the fittings. We thought we had a leak in the, or a hole in the intake
pickup hose,
but
seems fine. So I think last trip out, maybe the fuel pump was losing its ability to pump fuel. But we're changing all the nylon washers, new gaskets, keeping the same fittings, but it's a good time to clean stuff up. After many flap wheels, many grinder dusts, I've already vacuumed this like 3 times along the process. I have the track bar bracket cut off, both link brackets cut off, the ram mounts cut off. Don't mind the cuts through there. It's not going to be relevant because I'm plating over that. What a mess. So going to vacuum this up, sweep up the ground, and then give the axle another round of degreaser to clean it out real good. And then after that, I'm going to figure out how to get it there, which these Super Duty 60s have like no axle tube. You have axle tube over here. Over here, when your link bracket hangs down, you can't put a jack stand under there. So I've not found a good way to hang these things. And I'm thinking what I'll probably do is put some flat plate down there. I don't want to tie up that 3/16 there, so I'll look through the scrap bin, see what I got. Flat plate across, and then the diff cover will sit somewhere on that plate, and then I can use a block to shim up the other side, and then maybe that'll give me a little bit of ability to slide it around. So we'll see how far we get on that. This is a classic test of how much do you trust ratchet straps. I actually had one more on there, but I got a little strip of aluminum, smaller than I would like, but it's thick, so that'll work. Block over there, and then I'm kind of floating the blocks over here for the yoke. So I'm about to take it off the engine hoist and see if I can just slowly shimmy its way back there and then get the measuring tape out and start figuring out getting it centered. Things are getting a little weird here as I'm figuring out these lower link brackets. Basically, I wanted the bolt, you know, not way above the tube. And if I stick these brackets, come on, focus. If I clock the brackets up to where the bottom of them is flat, then the link is way above the bottom of the car. And I don't want to do that because that's not helping my link angles the way I want them. So I rocked them down to a 35-degree angle on both sides. Also something interesting, I'd originally set the bracket out to the outside edge. Got to grind that tack off. But when you do that, this tube prevents you from getting a Heim or a Johnny joint in there. So that just wasn't going to work. So I had to scoot it in a little and not cut it a little bit to where it lines up with the tube. Now I can fit whatever joint I want in there, but these brackets are just short, which is good for longer lengths, bad for tube breeze and above. But to get them clocked to the angle, based on the width of the chassis table, they were hitting the chassis table. So right now I've got a 2x4 and a 1x whatever that is, spacing the chassis up so that I could get these to the right angle. Now to get the chassis flat again, I'm gonna have to space the rear, and I'm really, you know, just contemplating at what time does the chassis table need to come out from under the car. But I think the front 4-link has to get built because the chassis table's holding the axle. So we'll keep moving along. I like the angle these are at. With the link coming into it, it'll be pretty smooth. And then it gives me a little taper to the skid plate, whatever that may be underneath. And these are boxed and beefy. I don't think they're going to be a big issue. They'll get hit on the ground a lot, but That's what link brackets do. Next, I need to start working on the top truss and the upper link mounts for the axle, and we'll see where we go. Next clip's from Moab. I got to go during the week for my day job, and kind of neat weather there, so I wanted to put a little clip in there, as it is 4x4 related. All right, we're getting towards the end of 7 Mile Rim. Mighty thunderstorm. Was just hailing pretty good. Got water running down below us. We got one of our drivers is a little bit car sick, but look at the rainwater coming off the rocks here. Just so cool. Whole bunch of fiddling tonight. That's 3x3 quarter wall square tube that I'm using to raise the truss up for the link brackets to go onto. This bracket had to be narrowed. It was a 2 5/8 width. Apparently I ordered misalignments for a narrower one, but these aren't going to pull much angle, so that's just fine. So I sliced these twice, brought them together, welded it, and then blended it. Just a giant waste of time, but ultimately not a big deal. Center line marked, angle marked for what I think I want to do. But over here's where things get a little bit interesting. So I made, this is 1/4-inch plate down there that bridges these two tubes. Originally I drilled in the center of it, but the weld bung was getting too close to this plate, or this tube here. So I drilled it 5/8 of an inch over. Separation between the upper and lower is it's gonna end up being somewhere around 7 inches. I'm just gonna make the lowers. I'm gonna do that same plate on the other side. Then we'll work on getting the lowers together. And basically at that point, I'll be able to have a hard mounting point. The lowers position isn't gonna change. The uppers, the only thing that I would change to play with my anti-dive numbers is raising or lowering that tube on the chassis. Because basically I put the link brackets where they just need to be, and we'll have decent enough separation on the axle. So I won't make the top plate for that until I run the numbers on everything and see if I like it. But basically I got the first half of the uppers figured out. So tomorrow, or whenever I get out here next, I will be working on matching it for the other side. And then at that point, I'll recenter the axle, which the upper links will actually help me do, because I can match the length on them, and I'll match their mounting points on the frame, or on the chassis and the axle. So I'll recenter that and then start working on getting the lower axle tube mounts on the, or link mounts on the axle tube. Upper link is made. I leveled the chassis out. I spaced the back up so that it's level again. It's up on blocks everywhere so the link mounts fit. So ultimately, once this 4-link is done, it's going to come out from under the chassis table and onto jack stands, which will actually take more jack stands to hold the thing up, which is just crazy. But that may be the same. But anyway, upper links, I think I like where these are at as far as a spread. I mirrored it on the other side. Sharpies and rulers, got that done. Separation, it's going to be a pretty low anti-dive number, similar to how the rear is a pretty low anti-squat number, with the goal of putting as much load into the shocks and not into the link bars, again, for a little better go-fast action. Lowers here, basically this is clocked down at a 23-degree angle. It's overlaid a little bit on some of the old garbage there, but should be nice weldable surface. So just a little bit of massaging to get that to fit where I wanted it, so I'll need to mirror that on the other side. Of course, the lowers on the bottoms are done, so once I match the tube length and I get this clocked at the right angle and everything, then it will square the axle up, so it's not steering. And then the uppers will help triangulate it. So you'll see there's a little bit of outward triangulation on the lower and a good amount of inward triangulation on the upper. This should be plenty to keep it from obliterating joints trying to stay triangulated. And next up is going to be to make the lower plate for the other side so I can mirror it. And the top mount for that link will be a little more elaborate than the lower. So if you're thinking that lower tab's not that strong, don't you worry about it. It's going to be just fine. So now to try and mirror it all. Pretty much matched everything on the other side. Link brackets on the axle, pretty tricky. This one was easy. And then the chassis, you know, there's some slight variance in exactly where this outer tube was and exactly where this one kicks in, which actually that one should have been fine, but I ended up making that plate. It's the same height, so it'll have the same link separation, but I had to make the plate just an ever so slightly different shape to move it forward a little bit to get it all lined up. And I was able to verify that it's correct going from the top of the bolt head down to the cross member tube there, which I know everything in the base of the chassis was square and those cross tubes in it are square. So that gave me a good reference point. So now all the links are identical lengths. You can see, whoop, if I line it up, we're very damn near centered, and that's not, you know, really precise. So I have plenty of adjustments in the links to get this thing really aligned however I like it. As it sits right now, the caster's at 6.5 degrees or so, but again, arms are adjustable. So once it's at ride height, which right now it's not full bump and it's not quite full, or not quite ride height. Once it's at ride height, I'll get the caster set just how I like it there, and then we'll see what happens. But as you can see, a little more separation on the axle than we have at the chassis, which should give me a good anti-dive number, which anti-dive is kind of the same as anti-squat, but it's in the front, and it's the properties in when the front hits a bump or when you hit the brakes, how much load is put into the shocks versus how much load goes into the 4-link bars. So I'll get with my buddy Chris and we'll go together. It's nice having a buddy when you're doing a 4-link calculator because one of you can be on the computer and the other one's out here with the measuring tape. So makes things kind of nice doing it that way. Car is sitting roughly at ride height. It's probably all about an inch too high, but basically at ride height. This is what the front axle looks like. Wheelbase is right about 115 inches. Rear axle is higher than ride height, but the front is theoretically where it would be with a 40 or 42 inch tire. Like I said, 115 or so inch wheelbase. Chassis table is out so that I can now cycle the axles easily. Chassis is being held up with pressure treated lumber and some steel tubing, so perfectly safe-ish. Lifted the axle up to what I'm gonna aim for is full bump. From ride height, this is 8 inches up. So depending on where ride height ends up, more or less 8 inches of up travel. Using a 14-inch travel shock, gonna be mounted at, let's say, an 18-degree angle. So I think this will probably, by the time it's bumped, net out, let's say 7.5 inches of up travel and 7.5 or 8 inches of down travel would be pretty ideal. See what we can come up with. Moving right along here. So what we have is single tab for the shock mount. The rear one's gonna be more tricky because I'm gonna build it hanging off of there, but I like to get it rearward to leave me a nice flat bump pad on the axle. So that one over here as well. Don't mind where the old bump pad was. It's equal on both sides, so it doesn't matter to me. So what I did is centered up the axle, which took me forever because one of the tacks I had holding a tube link had actually broke and I couldn't figure out why my adjustments weren't working. But this is now in line with the center of the chassis here. And then this top tube is basically 1.75 DOM with the tube here that's capped and drilled for a 1/2-inch bolt hole. This will get couplered so that it comes out when the motor comes out. 2 square tubes at 24 inches, same style we did as the rear. And basically I was able to bolt in the lower, knowing that both my tabs are 20 degrees laid back, which I think is a good angle for getting some angle on the shock. It's not radical. You can get more travel if you lean it more, but then your shock has a harder job to do, needs more damping, builds more heat. So I think 20 degrees is a fair compromise. And then bolted in both sides, lined up with a square here and here. And then I verified with my angle finder off of this bracket here to the tube, it's 106 degrees on both. So it's centered, the angle of the shock is the same. So now I can start building some structure to tie it all together. So I think I'll wrap the video up here. That is basically the front 4-link. When the car is more together, I'll run link numbers and I'll post those in whatever video that ends up being, so you can see the front and rear and how they all affect each other. Roll center, roll axis. A lot of these depend on what the front and rear suspension's doing, so I'll post that later. But basically this is the 4-link. This is for the axle placement, the wheelbase, and the start of the shock mount. So next video I'll start getting into the front tube structure and figuring out what needs to go where.